During the new Sith Wars, a millennium-long conflict that occurred 1,000 years before the rise of the Galactic Empire, the Jedi Order became increasingly militarized in an effort to defeat the advancing Sith army. As part of this militarization, many Jedi tried to match the rage and raw power wielded by the Sith Lords by utilizing aggressive and devastating Force techniques that were typically the product of the dark side. But having defeated the Sith in the conflict, the Jedi Order recognized that these Force techniques were miscalculations that were defined by a loss of control, and would ultimately cause the Order to end in tragedy. Therefore, although some Jedi would adopt these Force abilities over the years in certain situations, the Order concluded that it needed to ban a large portion of the Force techniques that had been widely adopted during the new Sith Wars. In this video expose, I will describe 5 Force techniques that were banned by the Jedi High Council following the Ruusan Reformation. The first forbidden Force technique that was denied to all Jedi within the Order was Force Grip. A version of telekinesis, a more than acceptable use of the Force as recognized by the Jedi, Force Grip entered into the realm of the forbidden once a Jedi's telekinesis powers were used to gain dominance over their adversaries. More specifically, when the ability was utilized to perform a Force choke, this was a clear misuse of the Force as recognized by the Jedi High Council. But more than just choking one's opponent, the Jedi forbade any member from using Force Grip to even hoist enemies into the air. For these reasons, Force Grip was banned for all Jedi as being a brutal and cruel application of the Force. A second Force technique banned by the Jedi Order was an ability called Force Insanity. Force Insanity was an even darker variant of a dark side Force ability known as Force Fear. Whereas Force Fear would strike directly at the deepest part of an adversary's mind, causing them to lose their courage and rapidly demoralizing them, Force Insanity was a far worse variant. Not only could it affect multiple targets with a far greater range, but Force Insanity invaded the very psyche of their target until the dark energies paralyzed them through horror. Further, it had the potential to cause permanent madness in those particularly vulnerable to the ability. There was no question then that Force Insanity should be banned for all Jedi to practice. A third ability banned by the Jedi Order was a Force technique known as Deadly Sight, which exploded in use during the new Sith Wars. An ability that was the product of the dark side, Deadly Sight allowed a Force user to harness the full power of their fury and hatred, and then channel this power to project it upon their target, merely through their vision. By intensely glaring at their victim, Deadly Sight could inflict devastating pain and injury on their foes, causing the skin to blister, or even vaporizing them completely when the ability was performed by an extremely knowledgeable adept. Because of its dark side connections, and it solely being used to cause pain and suffering, the High Council banned all Jedi from using this technique. Maura Crow was another Force technique banned by the Order after the new Sith Wars, but it's a bit more controversial than the previous 3 abilities. It was practiced by some of the Jedi Masters of the Order, but was completely banned for all those knights who had not yet achieved mastery. It was an ability that could slow or suspend the functions of the body, wherein it could be used on oneself or upon another being, allowing them to enter a mild catatonic state or long-term suspended animation. Jedi Masters such as Yaddle, who were proficient in the ability, could allow themselves and others to survive without food, water, or even oxygen for periods up to a year if necessary. But the technique was banned due to its potential dangers if used incorrectly. While it could be used to effectively subdue an opponent, if the target was not properly monitored, they could lose consciousness permanently or even be killed. Therefore, while it did have some benefits, the negatives of the Force technique caused the High Council to ban the ability for all non-master members of the Order, and even then, few Jedi adopted it. Lastly, a 5th Force technique that was banned under the demilitarization efforts of the Jedi after the new Sith Wars was Emerald Lightning. Closely related to the dark side power of Sith Lightning, Emerald Lightning was a technique that allowed Jedi to unleash electric bolts of different intensities from their hands. Distinguishing it from the dark side effects of Sith Lightning, it was created through a sense of determined justice, rather than being a pure manifestation of the dark side. However, despite this important difference, the Order believed that the ability was too controversial to be practiced among Jedi. This was because the ability had an inherent association with anger and aggression, which were similar to the associations involved with Sith lightning. Therefore, looking to purge the Order of Force techniques that were a product of anger and aggression, the High Council banned Emerald lightning following the Ruusan Reformation. So there we have it. 5 Force techniques banned by the High Council after the new Sith Wars. We love making these videos, so why not subscribe for more fun Star Wars theories and discussions? Also, if you enjoyed the video, think about giving a like or leaving a comment. Or perhaps follow us on Twitter at SW Reading Club for updates regarding the channel. Or support the channel through Patreon for access to exclusive hangouts and book discussions. If not for me, for not quite preventing tragedy.